we are extremely privileged to have the driver of the 59 in the NASCAR Pinty Series and host of Legendary Motorcar. If you had seen it on BNN, yes, I have seen it back then on BNN and now on YouTube. Gary Klutt is on the show. Gary, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
Well, we have to start off with something that before we get to the racing, I actually shared this fact with Graydon last week, and he was not aware. I was flipping through the TV channels and stumbled upon a YTV show by Chorus Media, and all of a sudden found myself looking at Gary Klutt hosting a show on YTV. Cool experience, I imagine, hosting, what was it? You're Driving Me Crazy, I think it was.
Yep. Driving Me Crazy for YTV. Yeah, it was a neat deal. It was it was my first real TV production, having done our own TV show. Really guerrilla style comparatively. This was like a full deal 93 person shoot. And like really long days. But no, I really just gained a whole lot of respect for actors, honestly.
Some of the challenges as part of this show. I'm just saying, if we were to do a web series with the Pintys drivers having to do some of those tasks, I think it'd be we're striking gold there.
Yeah, I tend to agree. They were pretty difficult, and yeah, I think that would be entertaining.
Yeah, I think Kevin Lacroix and Andrew Ranger, they can go around those road courses, but they got to try and sit in the back seat and not spill, what was it, water, or spilled the goldfish bowl or something. They're trying to go over a teeter-totter or something. It was very, very funny. And actually it was a nice educational show. So it was cool to see you do that. But you're not new, I guess you'd say, to the NASCAR Pinty Series. You've been around for a couple of years, but let's first talk about last year, because the season was, well, what it was, COVID. And I'd imagine that your guys' racing season had to be put on hold. We didn't get to go to CTMP, but you also have a business. And this is really why I wanted to have you on as well, is because you can touch on that, having a business during COVID and racing. How were you able to manage both? And did you have to make sacrifices on the business side? Obviously you made sacrifices, I would assume, on the racing side.
Yeah, I mean, certainly on the racing side, like I was saying, we didn't run any of the races. We had planned to run kind of all the road courses again, CTMP and the Toronto Indy, and working on a pretty good sponsorship deal for the Toronto Indy, and that would kind of trickle over. But just one of those things, there's worse things that can happen than not putting together a sponsorship deal and not racing. So we just kept the car in the shop, kept working on it. So we're still just picking away at it, me and John, mostly John. And then as far as business goes, all sorts of little hurdles along the way, but mostly we're just working harder, and that's kind of our MO, just put our heads down and work harder.
As a backdrop, when was Legendary Motorcar established, and when did you guys kind of break into the racing scene?
So Legendary Motorcar, my dad started probably 35 years ago. Kind of he bought and hot rodded cars like since he was 15. Kind of just bought a Mustang that was wrapped around a telephone pole, fixed it up, and his deal was he made more money than his paper route. And he goes, oh wow, okay. So he was kind of a hot rodder, street racer kind of guy, and then right out of university was just went for it. Just said, I'm going to do this, give it a shot for a year before he went and got a real job and bought and sold cars out of his driveway, and then rented a 2,000 square foot unit and did a restoration there and won a bunch of awards with that, and then built that up, and then moved out to Milton, which was the middle of nowhere, back in 90, and built a shop sold all of his inventory to be able to build the shop. And that, just got lucky during the kind of crash of the car market. He had already just sold all his stuff, built the shop, and then was, able to build up from there. So that's kind of how Legendary started. And it was just, trial and error and hard work on his part. And, loving cars. But as far as racing goes, I think he was down at the Shelby convention at Watkins Glen. Got to be, I don't know, 89 or 90. So he was maybe later, maybe 91 or 92. He was 30. And he hadn't really done much racing, didn't really know about it, didn't even, maybe watch the F1 race on the weekend kind of thing. And went out in the passenger seat of a guy's GT350 car, his racer, and instantly went, holy cow, I got to go do this. And I think went to Shannonville for the driving school, and then took a GT350 and built it into a race car. And that was his first race car. And so he started vintage racing just because of the nature of the business, and has done it ever since. So, he just got hooked.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
good story.
Yeah, no, very cool. Yeah. And so he was doing the vintage racing and started, he's a competitive guy like myself, and, was pretty good at it. And then kind of, I'm sure racing at Mosport and seeing the cast car races and seeing how good the racing was in cast car, going, okay, I want to do, maybe do some of these. And I don't know how the deal came to be. I think it was probably with Kenny working for us, being, working on Robin Buck's stuff. Bought an old oval car, and then went out to see TMP. And I think he raced it for the first time probably in 07 or 08. Like the first year was the NASCAR Pinty Series. And then rented another ride, built a car, or bought a Levitt car and rented it out to Ferrano there to help pay for the weekends for himself. And at that time, I think he was looking at it like, this is, super cool. Like, you get to go race the Edmonton Indy backup. You get to race the Toronto Indy. Well, I guess not the Toronto Indy, but you get to go race Montreal, Mosport. Like, for him, it's like, oh, this is awesome.
Checking stuff off, and yeah, that's pretty neat for sure. Great opportunities. And we actually we were at the auto show just a couple of years ago when Legendary had a bunch of the collection there, so it was really neat to actually see some of the cars that you've been describing and that we've seen on Legendary Motorcar on the TV show too.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, how do you fit into that story for racing? How does your path lead to the NASCAR Pinty Series?
So, I think my dad being still fairly freshly bitten by the racing bug when I was born, or when I came to be able, like, the age that I could go race a go-kart at. So I think he bought an old go-kart. I was probably 5 or 6, and we just took it to the Milton Go Train station in the parking lot on Saturday mornings. And I just drove around water bottles before I was old enough.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was just kind of our thing. I was always up early, always bugging him to go do something in the shop, or, go do something with a dune buggy or tinker on something, so that was perfect. We just loaded it up in this 1979 GMC Vandura, like the old kind of camper van there. And we just and then when I was 7, I was old enough to go race, and that was at Bigham at Waterloo Kart Club. So and then kind of started racing from there. I guess, probably for a couple years, my dad made the sacrifice of not racing at all, just for to help out me and Ryan to go race and to be there on the weekends. So then we started racing, and just racing go-karts, racing club stuff, and then kind of got competitive within Canada, I guess, in the Ron Fellow Series, and doing well there in junior and winning championships. And and then kind of, I guess, the go-kart career really culminated. I think I was 2009, won the Canadian Nationals, and then that was kind of it. I was 16, I guess maybe 16 or 17, and, you know, getting close to having to pay for my own racing if I wanted to continue to keep go-karting, and, you know, maybe my dad not being as interested in spending every weekend wrenching on my go-kart with me, and kind of, you know, so it's, and then going off to university kind of deal. So, you know, kind of got that one opportunity to race the Pinty Series when Frano wasn't in there, and ran pretty fast. I think we ran most of the race. I was running 5th at one point and made a mistake and ended up 11th, and kind of opened my eyes to, you know, that I could probably work at this and continue to do it. So since then, really was just kind of, you know, being a driver coach a little bit and hunting sponsorship, and then found that CTL sponsor in 2014, and then led to the whole season in 2015. And then, you know, you guys have probably seen the rest, but.
Yes, that Pioneer Pools car came next. That was a beauty. Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting, that trajectory, you know, when you took the trek from go-karts to Pinty's cars, was that an easy transition, or was that, you know, a lot harder than, I guess, me and Graydon might think it could be, you know?
Yeah, it was, honestly, it was a decent jump. You know, I had been around Motorsport a couple times for sure, in like street cars and stuff. And I think I won a couple like free driving schools, maybe at Skip Barber at Tremblant. I think JF was my driving coach there. You know, so I had been in some race cars, but nothing like a full body stock car. And certainly, like, you know, it was one of those things like where I went out for practice for the first time, and it was like, holy cow, these guys are after it. Yeah. We're not just fooling around anymore. And but you know, yeah, so just getting used to the car. But as far as like racing hard goes, you know, not that I did a lot of go-karting, but you're racing the whole time in go-karting. You're bumping the guy for 30 laps. So felt pretty comfortable in my racecraft anyways. It was just a difference of being able to pass on command almost in a go-kart, compared to a car where you really had to think about setting it up for a couple corners, if not a lap before.
In terms of difficulty, then you've done the permanent road courses, and then you go to a track like Toronto, like you mentioned, street circuit. What's the differences in terms of how to drive and how the car feels?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for, you know, if we're taking Toronto specifically, it's half cement, you know, in some of those corners. So you're like, you come in with a certain level of grip, and then, you know, it drops down by half in the front, and you're just kind of anticipating it. Which, you know, it's kind of like a drying up racetrack. You know, if it's wet and then it goes dry, kind of each corner is a little bit different. And then, you know, for there, it's just kind of, you know, really putting it on the line, really pushing past your comfort zone, because it is super uncomfortable to drive those 30 laps fast at Toronto. You know, the walls are there looking at you.
That's it. It's flat and it's super narrow, right? For those cars that, like, you're carrying so much speed and they don't grab like an open wheel car. It's got to be challenging to keep it between the walls and off of them.
Oh, absolutely.
And racing for position all the time.
Yeah. No, that's a tough one, and there's less passing there than probably some other tracks, but yeah, really just driving hard and trying to qualify well there, which we were able to do the last time we were there. So, I mean, you know, going forward, that's going to be, you know, work on our qualifying setup and really try and get out front and stay there.
Well, it's interesting that we bring this topic up, because you've also not just done Pintys at CTMP, but you've driven a truck there. I think three times maybe you've driven a truck.
3 times now. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk the differences between Pintys and the Camping World truck in terms of drivability. What's the comparison? Is there any similarities at all?
I mean, there's certainly some similarities, but, you know, honestly, I kind of feel like maybe after the last race, I've kind of figured it out now, or something's clicked in my mind, which, you know, it's always so hard to get those opportunities and then not not capitalize on it, because I know I can go out there in the truck and be fast, and I know I'm quick around that track anyways. Just a matter of figuring it out and getting the seat time. So, I mean, really with the truck arms and those tires, they have so much grip and so much get up and go, that I think I was probably, for the last three truck races, I was overdriving the truck, driving it in too deep, and not focusing on getting out of the corners as well, because there's a lot of horsepower and like, a lot of get up and go off the corners, a lot of grip with those truck arms.
It's got to be, yeah. It's got to be, it speaks to your talent level anyways, like you say, jumping from go-karts into a stock car, but just having the understanding of what it takes to go fast and how you got to, like, so you just don't go and stuff it into the wall when you go into the Moss Corner or something like that, carrying speed, but when to scrub it off and negotiate the corners and everything. Like, for how many starts you had, I mean, your progression level was, you always unload fast. And then you translate it into the truck as well. I mean, that's not a question, but it's really speaks to your talent level that that you just have that working knowledge of sports cars too. I mean, it just the various disciplines, that's and you always come to win at the track. We loved watching you at CTMP, sorry.
No, for sure. And that's, love those, the truck is totally different, because it's, you can overdrive it. Whereas these Pinty cars, you can just absolutely dive it in there, and then you can make the correction and it's not going to kill you. Whereas, right, those radial tires, which I haven't run a ton on, once you blow it at all on entry, you're never going to gain it back. That's why you see those big, long saves in the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series, is because the guy blew it, and it's just, he's got to fully lift and gather it back up and then keep going. Whereas, in the Pintys car, if you, hang on the throttle a little bit longer going into corner 8, you're just going to be a little bit tight and then loose and then gather it up, and you're still going to have a fast lap time.
And of all the people to have a partnership with for the truck race, Kyle Busch Motorsports, how the heck did you get that partnership together?
I mean, that was just timing, really. I was in the NASCAR Next deal in 2016, and I think Cody Coughlin, he had a conflict of interest. He was running a super late model, and he had already signed up for the whole season and whatnot. So they were looking for a guy to run that race, and I had just come off putting it on the pole and winning the race. So it may have been a good relationship to build on. Kill to go out and get that ride this year. I think we could really improve on it, and
we'll start the social media campaign, Gary. Don't you worry.
Yeah, good. And it's not like we completely blew it. We're running 4th place, and I stalled it for almost a lap in the pits, and I couldn't fire the truck. Finally got it fired, almost a lap down, and then drove back to 11th.
Driving angry a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but that's just one of those ones that, every time you think about it, you kick yourself. We could have had a real good finish there on the first outing, and boy, that, could have changed things potentially for the career, but, keep plugging away and try and get more opportunities.
So with your family race team, is it just like your dad, your brother, like who all works on the car? I mean, John Fletcher's always on top of your box, but who all wrenches on the car and brings it to the track, Gary?
I mean, it's almost all John. John's there day in, day out, and we're talking all the time, and he loves it. He's a student of the sport for sure, and he's grown up in it, and so he works at the shop full time. And we don't have race car stuff for him full time, but we put him on some cool other projects, and we have a lot of fun, and him and I have a great relationship, and Scott Fletcher works there now, so it's a good family deal. You know, and we've had a lot of fun since, I guess, 2013 or 2014 when we first started working together.
When you got families working together like that, it's a little less like work, and just more like kind of a bunch of guys hanging out and wrenching on stuff and having a bit of fun, I guess, too, eh?
For sure. You know, and it's mostly John, and you know, he'll let me clean the cars. I'm not doing I'm not working at his level. Let's just say.
That sounds like the type of job I would get if I was in a garage. Yeah, you can sweep the floor. That's what you can do.
You can put these rivets in, but don't lean on
it. You got the opportunity to drive in the Cup Series at Watkins Glen, Gary. What was that like?
Oh, honestly, it was one of those things where, you know, I didn't really realize what was going on until kind of after the weekend. Really just focusing hard on, you know, just not making big mistakes, stuff like that. You know, I didn't, I mean, it was very, very surreal to go out there. And it was just, you know, one of those things where you have to kind of shake your head and go, holy cow, racing with the boys.
Well, you also did something being part of the NASCAR Next team that not many NASCAR Pinty Series competitors can say, and that's that they're in a NASCAR video game. You may have been DLC, but you were in it. I think you, Caden, and DJ might be the only ones that are actually that have been in a NASCAR Heat game. What was that like? Come on, you're in a video game.
I mean, it was, you know, dream come true for sure. Playing video games growing up in Daytona, USA or whatever. So
Daytona,
video game. You know, having my own character was super cool for sure. You know, guys on my pit crew definitely play a lot more than I do, and they're, you know, I'd always get, you know, messages from them seeing how many guys I'd wrecked. But I mean, I guess, you know, going back to the Cup start, there was, you know, it just kind of fell in my lap there, really looking for a truck ride. You know, and I think I calculated it out. I think that was my 31st race car start in a full-size race car. So it's got to be some sort of record, you know, the guy with the least amount of experience on the grid for sure.
And you didn't finish last.
Yep. No. I mean, we struggled. We struggled all weekend. I had a vibration and we were working hard at it. But, you know, I ended up, I think with 10 to go, I had to save 2.5 laps fuel. So it was just ridiculous. And I'd never done that to that point. So I think I ran out of fuel with 1.5 to go, came across the line with no power steering. And I think Boris said, just got by me, but that was neat riding in the truck with him. You know, I was a little kid on the fence at Mosport in 2001, watching him race Trans Am cars.
Yes.
And, so Boris, it was super cool to hang out with him. Yeah.
Well, you've had the, I would call it the pop star hair. You've had the mustache. Are we ever going to see a Gary Klutt, Boris said fro?
No, I've got dead straw straight hair. So you might see a mustache and a mullet probably before you see a fro.
Well, Gary, we're not going to go much longer because we know your time is valuable. But, you know, one of the things that is really cool is that you have multiple, you know, races under your belt. You're somebody who we talked about earlier. You talked about with the Bunn sons that you've always got a smile on your face. And I'll go back and tell a story that in 2019, I was scared out of my mind to approach you at the garage. For whatever reason, it was just because you were right there working on the car. I'm like, I can't ask for a picture because he's working on his car and he's so polite. So I just stood there and took pictures of your car, I think 3 times. I went one way, then the other way, then the other way. I was like, maybe he'll just like say hello. And that was before I realized how awesome the NASCAR Pinty Series competitors are and how you guys all seem, even though you're hard competitors, that it's a family. in a way. But if there's somebody in that family that you would not have any trouble bumping out of the way to win, who would it be? And you can say family. You can say family. I'm just saying.
Are you bumping out of the way to win? What kind of question is that? I'd wreck my mom to win.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. That's a great. I love that. That's perfect. Yeah. All right. Graydon, do we have some parting words for Gary Klutt?
Well, just the fact that you're obviously a natural talent behind the wheel, and you're a fan favorite just because of that positive attitude and always having a smile on your face. My kids they watch the Pinty Series from as long as they can remember, and they gravitated to Scott Steckley and Gary Klutt first in their their early memories that they can remember without me kind of encouraging it. They've always had a great relationship with Scott. We haven't been able to see you quite as much, so we hope we get to see you this year at the track again, and we'll get some pictures because they're a lot taller than they used to be now. We'll get updated photos.
Right on. They're probably taller than I am now.
Owen's shooting up. He's grown since, I don't know, he's grown, I think, an inch since New Year's, I think, now. And you just can't he's just shovel food at him and he'll eat it all. So anyway, thank you, Gary, for doing that with the Bunn Sons, and for coming on with us, and hopefully we'll see you at the track sometime this year.
For sure. My pleasure, guys. Always happy to come on.
And Marcus Lemonis from the Camping World Truck Series. If you want somebody in a Camping World truck right here, Gary Klutt at CTMP would be a number one choice for the boys here at Fanside. Although we've kind of already named like 6 or 7 other Pintys guys. So if you're going to sponsor 10 trucks last week, you got to do it at CTMP. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Gary Klutt. Everybody have yourself a great week. We will chat to you next time.